Red Bluff sat quiet in a hollow between scorched hills and a dry riverbed that hadn't seen rain since spring of 1877. It wasn't much to look at a crooked line of buildings along Main Street, a wind-beaten church, a two-room schoolhouse, a sheriff's office that hadn't locked anyone up in months, and the Silver Lantern, the saloon that doubled as the soul of the town. Folks passed through Red Bluff mostly to get somewhere else. Those who stayed did so out of stubbornness, desperation, or the kind of weariness that made starting over seem worse than dying where you stood. The law in Red Bluff was a skinny man named Sheriff Hobbs, a former sheep rancher with a limp and no appetite for trouble. The mayor had gone east 2 winters ago and never returned, which left the townsfolk fending for themselves or praying trouble never came. But trouble had a name, and that name was Ash Corwin. It was a dusty Thursday when the Black Hollow riders came thundering in a storm of hoofs and powder and black coats that billowed like shadows seen off them, each more minute than the last, with Ash Corwin at the center, tall, weary, and cold like a whip that had been kept in a fire. His face was sunburnt and sharp, all bone and fury, his mustache black as his boots. They didn't ride in slow or with warning. They took Main Street like it owed them money. By the time their horses kicked dust against the chapel steps, every shop door had closed, every curtain pulled. Red Bluff had heard of them, of the stables burned in Fort Hensley, the barkeep in Sulphur Creek, who talked back and got nailed to his own floorboards. The story said Ash Corwin once gutted a sheriff with a boot knife just to see if he could still hold a deck of cards with his left hand afterward. They were bandits, yes, but worse than that, they were organized, calculated. Each man knew his role, how to break a town without raising his voice. They dismounted at the Silver Lantern. Inside, the saloon was warm with kerosene lamps and the smell of sawdust and tobacco. A few locals sat hunched at tables, nursing flat beer and bad luck. Behind the counter, Lenore Duval polished glasses with the kind of slow precision that made a man wonder what she was thinking. She'd run the Lantern for almost 3 years now, ever since old Mason Duval passed and left her the deed. Folks knew her as a quiet woman. Never raised her voice, never drank, rarely smiled. Some called her cold. Others said she'd lost something once and never got it back. What no one said, what no one dared guess was where she'd come from before Red Bluff. And that was just the way she liked it. Ash Corwin kicked open the saloon doors like a theater actor, begging for applause. Evening. Red Bluff, he called, arms wide, grin crooked. The Black Hollow riders are feeling thirsty tonight. His men poured in behind him, the scrape of spurs and the clink of rifle stocks on their backs loud in the silence. No one moved. No one greeted. The piano player looked ready to faint. Lenore, wiping a tin cup, looked up just once. Her eyes didn't linger. She gave no sign of recognition, concern, or even interest. Ash saw it, and that made him curious. He swaggered to the bar, tossed down a silver coin, and leaned in with elbows wide. "Bottle of your best, miss, and keep it coming." Lenora slid a bottle across the bar without a word. Ash popped the cork with his teeth, spit it onto the floor, and drank straight from the neck. "You the owner?" he asked. "Between weeks." "I am," she replied evenly, voice steady as stone. "Well, now that's a pleasant surprise. A lady running the only place worth drinking in town. Name's Ash. Ash Corwin. Maybe you've heard of me." "I run a bar," Lenora said. "Not a gossip circle." A few of his men chuckled, but Ash didn't. His grin froze, then widened. "Unnaturally. I like her," he said, turning to the room. Got iron under them skirts? I bet. He turned back to Lenora. We're going to be staying a spell, me and my boys. Right. Bluff's about to join the civilized territories. We offer protection, safety. For a fair monthly rate, of course. I've got a lock on the door and a 12 gauge. Under the counter. Lenora said coolly. That's plenty of protection for a place like this. Ash laughed. A short sharp sound. Lady, you don't want to test what a lock means to us. We ain't burglars. We're insurance men. If someone were to say, light a fire under your porch. Well, accidents happen. We make sure they don't. Lenora said nothing. Just filled another glass and set it gently before a ranch hand who hadn't touched his drink since the writers entered. Ash stared at her for a long beat, then leaned closer. I'm going to enjoy getting to know you, Miss Duval. Here. Eyes finally met his. And for just a flicker, something shifted behind them. Not fear, not anger, just calculation. Ash didn't recognize it, but it stuck with him like a pebble in his boot. When he stepped back, he nodded to his men, drink up, boys. Red Bluff's our town now. No one in the saloon said otherwise. But in the back of the room by the crates of old whiskey barrels, Sheriff Hobbs slowly reached for his flask and took the longest pull he'd had in years. Outside, the wind howled down from the hills like it was warning someone. Inside, Lenora Duval picked up a broken glass. With a cough, her face unreadable. Trouble had come and she knew sooner or later she'd have to stop hiding. By the third day of the writers' occupation, Red Bluff felt like a town caught holding its breath. The church bell rang softer. Footsteps quieted on wooden walkways. Even the dog stopped barking, sensing the shift in the wind. But inside the silver lantern, the rhythm never skipped. Lenora Duval moved with the same silent certainty. She always had her boots whispering over the floorboards, her cloth wiping in perfect circles, here. Eyes tracking everything, even while pretending not to. Folks had noticed odd things about her before, like how she always kept one hand free, or how she could count the number of patrons in the room without turning her head. But now, with danger sitting at every table, those habits seemed less strange and more like the traits of someone trained to survive. Ash Corwin noticed, too. He watched her move that night. The way her back never once turned toward the front door. The way she stepped sideways when reaching for a bottle. Always leaving herself space to pivot. She never fumbled. Never hesitated. Anyone ever tell you? He said, sidling up to the bar. You move like someone waiting for a bullet. Lenora didn't look at him. Only those who fired one. Ash smirked, but it didn't stick. He was used to reading people, used to seeing fear rise behind the eyes. But Lenora, she was a locked safe with no handle. And that nod at him. You always this calm? He asked. I'm not calm, she said. I'm calculating. Ash leaned in. I like a woman with edges. I'm not a woman with edges, she replied. I'm a blade someone tried to bury. He stared at her for a long beat, then laughed too loud as if trying to shake off a chill. The rest of the saloon followed suit, but their eyes never left. Here. Later that night, Cletus and Boone, two of Ash's younger dogs, both eager and dumb, got into it over a rigged poker hand. A bottle shattered. A table flipped. Cletus reached for his belt and Lenora moved. Not fast, not loud. Just there between them before anyone had seen her coming. That's enough, she. Said. Cletus Furze. Boone blinked. You want to bleed? Do it outside. But you do it in here and I'll make sure you never hold cards again. Her voice was flat. Deadpan. But in her stance, wide-legged, arms slow, left foot forward, any man with battlefield training would have recognized it combat ready. Boone slowly let go of the knife. Cletus backed off with a mumbled curse. At the far end of the room, Old Branson muttered into his whiskey, I seen that look before. Same one, Major. Cormac had right before he charged the barricade at Hollow Trail. Pig Eye, polishing his pistol, looked over. Hollow Trail Ghost Cavalry. Brangzone. Whisperet. The widow ghost led the last charge. Woman didn't blink when artillery felled 10 Fuß from her horse. Her eyes cold. Gray, quiet like this once. Pig Eye glanced at Lenora. Then at Ash. Later in the back room, Ash gathered his crew around a cracked table, a lantern hissing above. I'm telling you, Boone said, voice low. She ain't normal. I felt like a schoolboy with his hand caught in the grain bin. She don't flinch, Cletus added, like she's already made peace with Clint. If it comes to it, Pig Eye looked straight at Ash. Boss. She don't just move like she's seen battle. She moves like she let it. Ash poured another shot but didn't drink it. Ghost Cavalry was disbanded a decade ago. Branson's whisper echoed in his skull. Widow Ghost. Ghosts don't disband, Paige said. They go underground. Ash slammed the glass down, cracking its rim. She's just a bartender. Maybe, Pig Eye said. But she had her weight on her back foot tonight. Like she expected a fight. Like she knew who'd pull first. Ash stared at the flame. His stomach twisted. There was something familiar about her stance. The way she'd looked at him like she wasn't measuring danger but weakness. She's bluffing, Ash said finally. But no one agreed out loud. From the shadows near the staircase, Lenora listened. She hadn't meant to be remembered, but ghosts have a way of coming back when men start burning what little pieces left. She went upstairs, closed the door to her small room, and opened the worn leather satchel under her bed. Inside, a folded map marked with campaigns, a field journal soaked through in blood, and a coin-sized token engraved GC in rusted brass. She hadn't looked at it in years. Now she turned it in her palm like a prayer. Tomorrow something would break, and when it did she would stop hiding. It was Saturday night and the silver lantern was packed wall to wall. Cowhands, drifters, ranch widows, and silent veterans all hunched over drinks as if bracing against a coming storm. Ash Corwin sat dead center, the king of his rotting court, boots on a table. Whiskey half spilled down his vest. The Black Hollow riders were loud, rowdy, laughing harder than their jokes deserved. It wasn't natural. It was a display, and everyone in that room knew it, except maybe Ash himself, who'd been drinking harder since the night before. Ever since Lenore Duval had stopped a fight cold without drawing a weapon. Since whispers started fluttering around town like moths in lamplight. Since even his own boys started looking at her with a mix of weariness and wonder. He didn't like it. Didn't like her silence. Didn't like her control. Didn't like that she could walk through a storm and not even flinch. So he decided to break it. Midway through a bad piano tune, he stood. The room dimmed a little under the weight of it. He walked slow to the bar, past the glances, the held breaths. Lenora stood as she always did, polishing, listening, calculating. He leaned in. I've been patient, Ash said, loud enough for everyone to hear. But you and I still have unfinished business. She set the glass down. I don't owe you anything, Mr. Corwin. Ash's voice sharpened. That's not how deals work. I offer protection. You either pay or something gets broke. I have nothing that belongs to you, she said evenly. And I don't negotiate with men who built their reputations on fear. That made something in Ash snap. You think you're better than me, who? His voice rose, face flushed with liquor and pride. You think you're untouchable. He reached across the bar and grabbed her collar. Let's see what's under all that coat, he growled. Then, with one sharp tug, he ripped her shirt clean down the front. The buttons flew like seeds in wind. The room went silent as a church during a funeral. Lenora didn't move, didn't gasp, didn't cover herself because what he'd revealed wasn't weakness. It was legend. Across her chest and upper torso. Visible beneath the black tank shirt that clung disc-scarred skin lay an intricately inked eagle without stretched wings, clutching crossed sabers, the unmistakable symbol of the Ghost Cavalry. Below it, a brass dog tag hung on a chain. Idubal GC Field Ops. Hollow Trail. And beneath that, scars. Dozens of them. Some clean like knife work. Some ragged, burnt, puckered. The kind that spoke of survival. Not surrender. Someone whispered, no. Another voice, growly and shaken. Murmured, Ghost Cavalry. That can't be real. Old Branson stood from his stool, jaw trembling. I saw that mark at Black Elk Ridge, he said. Only once, right before they wiped out a raiding party 3 times there. Size. Nobody survived. Just smoke and stories. The piano man backed away from his bench. Ash stood frozen, his fist still gripping part of the torn fabric, mouth hanging open like a man staring down a god he didn't believe in. You, he stammered. Lenora stepped out from behind the bar. Each was slow, deliberate, like a commander walking through a ruined battlefield. You made a mistake, she said softly. You thought silence meant weakness. That calm meant fear. She turned so the room could see the ink, the dog tag, the scars. I'm not hiding anymore from the corner. Pig Eye let out a strained whisper, boss. She's the widow ghost. Gasps followed. Murmurs.